Thank you.
So I want to take a few minutes today to go over your 360 review. I know we finished this a few months ago, but I thought now would be a good time to kind of look at the results, go over everything with you. I know it was a few months ago, but at Carter Group, do you remember, how did you feel that you were doing at the time? Were you expecting 3s and 4s on this from everyone else, like 1s and 2s?
Honestly, at that point in time, I remember this specifically, filling these out in a hotel in Athens. You know, I tried to give myself exactly what I thought I was doing. You know, it's kind of an ambiguous report. You may want to give yourself a number because you think this is going to put you in the median range, but I tried to look at the overall scope of work completed up to that time, meaning a lot of the property solutions work and the things we've done from that standpoint and how they related to the questions asked in the review.
Sure, and I know you had a hectic year last year with starting up, and you know you were gone. So just time being here, it might have been difficult for you to kind of fill this thing out, honestly. But do you feel like you've made improvements since then with the way that you filled this out? Do you think like there's anything specific or areas that you've done where you've improved?
Yeah, I think trying to provide more accountability to other team members. I think that's an issue I struggle with, is trying to take too much on at one point in time and not releasing anything else to other team members so that I can focus on the important things as opposed to just getting bogged down with 6 small items and negating the large item.
Great, and that's actually one of the things I want to go over with you, your scores in the accountability section specifically, so we'll get into that later. That's great that you say that and you acknowledge it. Well, 5 other people filled this out, besides yourself, 5 peers, 1 manager, excuse me, so 6 other people, so 7 total. It's scale of 1 to 4, just to remind you. So 4 is almost always the highest score, 3 is still above average, 1 is you need to improve drastically. And if you want to look at these results, because I know you haven't seen them, just offhand, you're going to see that everything is high. I think that's the first thing you're going to notice. I believe the lowest score is a 2.7, and as I said, frequently is a 3, so it's still above average. So, if you're disinterpreting these results, it's still good, and most of the things are in like 3.2 to 3.5 range, which is excellent. So I think that's the first thing that jumps out at me, is just how far these are going, which is great. The next thing that jumps out is the variance, at least to me. And obviously you're not going to be able to just do perfectly guess every time. Scale 1 to 4, right. There's naturally going to be some variance. But especially in a couple of these, like communicating effectively, like other people voted at 3.4, acting with courage, other people voted you at 3.5. Like for me, I would consider these 2 of your strongest traits. I believe, like if you look at the others, they might be your 2 highest scores. Can you think of maybe why you would have voted yourself like this when other people did not?
It's hard to say because everybody would rationalize a different scale for the point system. I think me specifically, it's just kind of the nature of who I am. So jumping into something, just like you mentioned, you're hectic, you're moving here and then taking off to Atlanta for 3 months. To me, that's not as encouraging or acting with courage, I guess I would say. That's just kind of what I've done, what I'm used to. I think I rated myself a little bit lower because of the acting with courage piece would be standing up and handing things off. Again, it's kind of the accountability piece for me. It's always the fear of handing things off because I'm not courageous enough to think that somebody's going to perform or put in the time to do it.
Sure. That's a pretty interesting way of looking at courage, because when I think of you, and when I say it's one of your strongest traits, at least from my vantage point, obviously not working every day together, I think of you up here looking very comfortable despite what you may think, and giving speeches at these executive presence meetings. I think of you talking with Clifton on the phone and, pumping him up about his project, just really feeling comfortable in general. It seems to me that's what it comes across with working with other people, and the communication aspect as well. I think those are, hand in hand. They both fall under the Foster's collaboration title. So from my end anyway, I've seen, some strengths there. So, and then if we look like more detailed at this, Manager gave you a 4.0 on communicating effectively. Your peers gave you a 3.6 on acting with courage, right? So, far above, what you had graded yourself. And I think also just going along with this concept, Jake, and things that stuck out to me as I was looking through it, they call them hidden strengths through the system that we use. And if you look at these gaps on here, 1.7, you gave yourself a 2, while other people gave you a 3.7 on fosters collaboration. Just like the general area, kind of just going along with the same thing, courageous, communicating effectively, resiliency you scored really high on, right? So you gave yourself a 2.0 while others gave you a 3.7, so like a 1.7 gap on a 4-point scale is pretty significant, right? Collaboration again, right? And leveraging change. So it's a consistent theme in these scores, which is great to see. If we keep going, we'll see, and we can come back to these weaknesses here in a second. We can see these strengths again, right? Collaborates, like all these 4s right here from your managers, encouraging teamwork, establishing trust with your peers. I know, again, like it's kind of with what you said with your scores, but do you think in hindsight, if you took this again, you would give yourself higher scores on them?
Honestly, I think I would probably give myself the same score.
Okay.
Even though it is a strength of mine, based on the numbers, it's still, the fact that it's a strength means there's something that I can always improve to make it even better. You know what I mean? I feel like it has so many different, there's so many different ways you can go with personality.
Sure.
And I would rate myself the same probably every time. So,
okay.
Just because I'm always looking for improvement.
Yeah, and my only, kind of advice or concern with that would be if something is already a strength and you're still focusing on it, or perhaps you don't even consider it one, then maybe you're not putting enough time into other things you should be. I could see it being sort of not dangerous, but just from a professional and personal standpoint, I can see it being beneficial to kind of just, acknowledging where your strengths are so you can add value to the company while also, dedicating more time to maybe where your weaknesses are in order to improve. And with the weaknesses, as you said earlier, your main weak scores came from the the accountability section. Pardon me, not collaboration. You scored very highly there, as I've said. It's accountability. The only score, in fact, from an average of your peers that was below a 2 came from holds others accountable. So I thought that was great. It was the first thing that you mentioned. And then again, holds other accountables, scores maybe in the 2s, so not up to your usual high standards there. So yeah, do you think you're going to be making an effort moving forward to try to improve those areas?
Yeah, it's something I'm glad it's backed up and validated with a review like this, because it's an area that I definitely need to improve on.
Sure.
So, the fact that it's validated pushes me, to another level to think, okay, what am I doing wrong? And what you just mentioned, taking a step back, being good at what you're good at, but focusing again on the things that you're bad at.
Sure.
It's there, so.
Great. And along with that, maybe that's a kind of a good start with moving forward and kind of thinking about a plan of attack to make some improvements. Knowing that is a weakness, just from my personal experience, one thing I would suggest maybe in order to improve the human side, or the accountability, sort of trying to improve performance, maybe holding regular meetings, and this might again be already something you're doing and improving upon. But really drilling down to make sure that people are in their proper place to succeed. So what do you think about an idea like that, maybe with Kelly now that you're our active manager?
Yeah, definitely. It's just more collaboration, and again, the accountability piece. It's hard to come down and be positive all the time.
Sure.
And the positive factor doesn't always produce the best work. So
sure.
It's definitely something I want to work on and action plan with her in the meeting, making sure that the standards are clear and concise and performance levels are either met or, we discuss whether or not met.
Absolutely, and again, I don't work with you directly, but at the same time, I can see what you bring to the table from an energy, care standpoint. Like, you're really in on meetings, like I can see you're like pumping people up, you're making sure that everything is, I think resilient is like where you score the highest, and I kind of like that idea for you, you know what I mean? It's like, I'm gonna get this done, like, come along with me, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And courageous, resilient, courageous, again, like two really important traits. For me, when I think about them, two of the hardest ones to develop, I mean, that's more of a personal standpoint, but at the same time, I think it's like a really good starting point for you as you continue, your team continues to grow. And if you can add in like the human factor, the analysis factor as well, which I think you kind of hit on a little bit with like the details, I really think you're going to find your managerial skills are going to improve drastically. So, yeah, I think, as I kind of mentioned earlier, maybe if we're just going with some just overall themes, from what I've seen from this, you have clear strengths. Again, you have no obvious weaknesses. The things that I've said are more just points of refinement, such as the accountability, and I think, developing others, which kind of you touched on, right? So if you go on with the same attitude and you work on those skills, I think you're going to find that your strengths are only going to get better, more pronounced, and you're really going to get that value for the company. So thank you for your time today, Jake. Did you have any questions for me today?
No.